Andrzej Wrona is our guest today. Hello.
Hello, guys.
I have a confession to make. I have to start with a confession. I invited you like a month ago, give or take,
probably
3 weeks ago, because I had something in mind when I was sending you a message. I was looking for variety. By variety, I mean, I'm looking for like all sorts of guests, like travelers, psychologists, athletes. Mm-hmm. You're the first one. You made it on the list.
Pleasure to be the first one. Thank you.
I'm happy to have you.
I'm honored.
And I sort of quickly connected the dots because, as a Polish people, we love volleyball. I feel like we're fascinated by it in a way. I do think it's a national sport. We're going to be talking about this today. Might be controversial if we think also of football.
For many football fans, for sure.
Exactly. But when I think of you, I have to say also, I did not know much about you as a person, and I have this flashback of you watching like Polish team in 2014. I was 14 years old, just sitting in front of my TV, watching World Championship, where you aced the game with Brazil in Poland. But again, I did not know who Andrzej was. And I still don't fully know. Hopefully by the end of this
that's why I'm here.
interview, I'll have a better understanding. We had a talk off cameras for quite some time because there was delay today. So we've been waiting in the corridor.
Yeah, and I told you I don't like to speak before.
Yeah, but we still had a conversation, full-on conversation. But we didn't talk about this, what I'm going to tell you. Because also for people who, for you to have a bit of a context, Andrzej, he didn't want to know the topic of the conversation because I always have 1, 2, 3 themes, and he didn't want to know. He wanted to go spontaneous.
Yeah.
So
I think this is the best way, but now I'm nervous. Okay.
The topic of today's episode is, we're going to be talking different things, obviously, also your life, but I want to focus on English in the world of sports. Because I feel like it's a topic that's not really fully discussed by Polish podcasters, but it should be. And I'm starting with this because, every time I'm doing research for my guests, I read, I watch a lot of stuff, and I saw your channel on YouTube with Taylor Averill, where you guys...
And Jakub Kowalczyk, because there was 3 of us.
And I was watching this episode, some of the episodes, and man, the things you discussed there. To start with, it's in English. So for people who want to practice English, it's a nice way to do it, I think.
And if you love volleyball, it's additional stuff which will help you to last with us this 1 hour.
Because you discuss volleyball-related topics, but also man, I have to say, I was watching it, I was like, this man is funny. You guys discuss whether going to zoo is ethical or not. Yep. Spoiler alert, it's not.
Yeah.
You discussed what's your favorite white animal, and then you said eagle. If you could choose, you said if you could choose for one day, to turn into an animal, what would it be?
Man, I really don't remember
what
we were speaking about because, man, I missed this podcast. It was last season. Taylor was playing here. He's a bronze medalist in last Olympics in Paris. So this was really great to have him as a co-podcaster and doing this show for 10 episodes. It was actually his idea to do it. He had his podcast, The Tallest Podcast on Earth, I think is the name of the podcast. You should definitely check it out also. Back then when he was in US, and the first words that that he said to me when we first met on the first practice was, "Man, when we are doing our podcast together." I said, "Hi, Taylor, nice to meet you." And he was like, "Man, when we are doing our podcast together?" Because I did some podcasts before. Yeah. He did also, and he knew that I like to do it. And we had this idea. It was his idea to speak about volleyball, but not only, as you said. We were starting with everyday topics every time we've met, because it's difficult also to speak with people, which I have on the practice twice a day for 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, and we speak all the time. And after
now you have to sit down and do an episode.
Sometimes it was we are speaking since 9 a.m. and we are meeting at 9 p.m. to do the podcast, and we discussed all the different stuff during the day. We ate dinner before, just in the restaurant downstairs, and we are going up and we just push record and we speak. So this was interesting to also speak about every topic around volleyball, but not only. But the idea was also like to like sum up the podcast for people who don't know it, that we try to connect not famous volleyball players, like normal people who play volleyball, with the biggest stars in volleyball by them sending us the video questions or struggles which they have about volleyball, but not only. And we were choosing like 2, sometimes 3 videos which we were sending to the top stars, like the biggest names in the volleyball world. We were sending these questions and they were answering these questions also in video, and we were like playing this in the podcast and also discussing with ourselves about it. So this was really funny, like back then when I was a kid and when I was a fan of volleyball, and if I had the possibility to do it, like to ask and to not know who will answer my question, but this possibility that maybe they will choose me, and maybe, I don't know, Bruno or whoever, like player or male or female will answer these questions. Man, this would be the blast. So I think it was fun, and people still are writing me like when we are coming back to do but it's difficult.
I'm also looking forward to
Taylor
it.
now is playing in Italy, in Monza.
Yeah, he moved out of Poland, so he's not here. He's not available.
And of course we can speak like via internet, like some Zoom or whatever, but it's different. Like it's different when we can meet. Like I prefer to speak like this than just watching my monitor of computer.
I'm also starting with this because again, I sort of connected the dots. I saw you and I saw you speak English. You feel confident speaking it. You have your own podcast, which is great. You're likable athlete, right?
Yep.
And I was like, okay, so this is a perfect opportunity to meet up and really discuss this issue. Going back to English, right? The question I have for you, let's just dive in, straight in. Is English essential, communicating, speaking in English? Is it essential in the world of sports nowadays? Yes or no? And you can evaluate on that.
I think the language of volleyball used to be Italian because like the biggest number of coaches, I think, around the world who are the coaches of the professional teams in the best leagues were Italians for many years, and there was an Italian school of volleyball because they were like the best in the world. They had the best league in the world, and everybody was thinking that Italians know volleyball like on the top level, the best, and everybody should hire Italian coaches. So these Italians were coming to all the clubs around the world, and they were, of course, trying to speak English. Some of them were speaking better, some worse, but they were in every sentence they were putting like Italian words around volleyball, some specific names of the plays and everything, like tactics and whatever. So I remember, because I play volleyball 25 years today, and it's like this year is 25 years, and I remember, and I know Italian on the volleyball way. I know this language. I never learned it. I never tried to go on the classes. Maybe I was on some 2 classes many years ago, but I think I can speak about volleyball in Italian if I meet some Italian guys, and we will communicate good. But English is probably now the most common language in sports, in volleyball also. And this is strange, because if I would go to Italy and I would play in some team there, everybody will force me to speak Italian, and I would have to learn this language as fast as possible to communicate with my teammates, with coaches. Coaches would speak English, would speak Italian, to make this process faster and to push me to do it. And when foreigners are coming to our league, then the whole team is speaking English to make them feel more comfortable. So we are like, we are in this way. We are better hosts to make our guests feel better than when we go outside abroad to force them to speak, I don't know, our language or whatever. Now we could force them to speak Polish because Polish national team is one of the best in the world, and also our league is one of the top 3 best leagues in the world. So we could also now force everybody to speak Polish, but we are not doing this.
It's interesting what you said about like foreigners coming to our leagues, because I mean we discussed it also with cameras like Częstochowa, Bełchatów, right? Back in the day, they had so many players from abroad, but still the team was speaking English. But let's break it down a little bit. So, for example, imagine you are an athlete, but you start your career. I think your aspiration as a sportsman or sportswoman is to gain either recognition within your country, like you aim high. I think that's like a spirit of a sportsman or sportswoman. You aim high.
You have to.
Or you have to. Or you want to become recognizable or recognized abroad.
Yeah.
Right? And in that case, English, I think, is essential. Like when we're thinking of building your brand, like internationally, when you think of getting sponsorships, right?
Right. I think this should be like learning English or other language, because you don't have to learn English. You can have your goal like, man, one day I want to play in Italy. So if you have in some sport, I don't know, of course, if you play basketball, you dream about NBA. Now I can say many sports, and these dreams would go to the other side of the ocean to USA, because they have most of the best leagues in the world. But okay, let's say this volleyball league is also good in Italy or in Japan, and I want to play in Japan one day. So it's better to learn when I'm a kid. When I start to play volleyball, you should start to learn the language. It should be on the same level, like practicing your physicality, your mentality, your volleyball skills, and also language, because this will help you to communicate with all the athletes around the world. And I know the cases that when some players were not signing the contracts with some teams because they didn't know the language enough, and some coaches were scared to take a player to one team because they knew that this guy knows no other language than his home language. Let it be Polish, and they were scared about the communication with this player. And this is still some advantage. Okay, there are not many players who don't know English, but if there are some, it can be a barrier. It's a struggle for them, for sure, and this can be a barrier, and this could be like the one point which will push the authorities not to sign the contract with this player.
Partnerem podcastu jest Tutlo, szkoła angielskiego online, która tak jak ja pomaga przełamywać bariery w mówieniu. It's really interesting what you said about this like set of skills. You said, right, when you're an athlete, you need to have this like physical set of skills. Like you run fast, you jump high, you play well. I didn't want to say my personal story, but I used to play volleyball when I was 14, 15. I went to the SMS, Szkoła Mistrzostwa Sportowego. Yeah. I got kicked out, not like...
But which one?
In Gdańsk.
In Gdańsk, okay.
Not like formally, but like the coach came up to me and he said like, yeah, you're not like tall enough. You're not jumping high enough.
Okay.
And I was a bit devastated by it back then, but then I started learning languages. So it was fine in the end. But what I'm trying to say is that you have to have these set of skills combined with soft skills. Here, I mean like language, obviously, but like communication, right? Strategy. And the first thing that...
Especially in the team sports, like when you practice some individual sport like tennis, you don't have to be somebody who is good in communication with the people around you, because everything is in your hands.
But here we're talking volleyball, which is the team sport, sports team. It's team sports.
Team sport,
there you go. And in case of Poland, it's even more interesting, I think, because when we look at our team, our national team, we have a history of coaches coming from abroad. So we have Nikola Grbić, which is the current coach. He speaks Polish.
He's from Serbia.
There you go.
It's easier for Serbians
Vital
to learn Polish.
Heinen. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. He's
You
Belgian.
lived in Belgium, so
I think
you know.
I hope the pronunciation is correct. I think it's a Flemish name, so I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Yeah.
They speak some Polish, obviously. But then we go back to 2014, and we have Stefan Antiga, your coach back in the day when you were guys playing the World Championships. And I was watching the fragments of your game last night, and in the timeout, he would speak English.
Yeah.
Even though he also speaks Polish, then he had an interview in Polish the year after with Piotr Kraszko, fluent Polish. I was really surprised and amazed. But still, in the court, he would speak English. I want to know if there is some, in your case, if you can share with us, if there was some miscommunication at times, situations where this language barrier really showed up. Because I think it can be also a struggle at times.
I'm not sure if I remember this correctly, but I think it was like this, that Stefan Antiga, he started to learn like really fast when he came first to play volleyball in Poland in 2007, I think. So in 2014, it was like already 7 years that he was here. His kids were speaking Polish at home, also going to Polish school or kindergarten. So he had this Polish around him, and he was motivated to speak Polish to learn this language. And I think he's still one of the best speaking Polish athletes, or not only volleyball players, but athletes, I can say.
But back in the day in the court, he would speak English.
But when he started to be a coach in 2014, because this was his first year of being a coach, he asked us, like he said, guys, I know how to speak Polish, but on the timeouts, I have 1 minute to tell you some fast, like...
there is no time to waste.
Yeah, some fast points which you should take care of on the court. There is stress, there are stressful situations, there is like, it's loud around people, there's 14, 15,000 people screaming around. I'm stressed. I need to be precise.
I need to be on top of my game, tell you what I want to tell you.
There is no time no place for some miscommunication, for me correcting myself on the timeouts and losing these seconds which we have to speak. And I will feel more comfortable in speaking in English. So are you okay with this? And all the team obviously was, because we were all, I think, that time speaking English, better or worse, but this was the language of on the practice, on the timeouts, on the games. But when we had like practices or some chats around the practices in canteen, when we were eating our meals in Spała or wherever we were, he was like pushing himself to speak Polish, and he was like asking us questions in Polish. We were trying to speak more and more Polish. But for example, for me, I treated this also as a time to practice my English, to speak with him, because I can speak Polish with all the guys. So it was like when he was standing in front of me and he started the conversation, he started in Polish, I speak in Polish. But when I want to go to ask him something, I ask in English, because I want to also practice English. And
so it's like a mutual relationship.
Yeah. And he had this with everyone. He also had some guys who played in Italy back then, like before many seasons ago. And he also could speak Italian, Spanish, Polish, English, and French, obviously. So he could speak with other players in Italian because they felt better in this language. So it was like communication precise with each player in different language.
Going back to the court, I think knowing English can be a very big advantage. I'll give you an example. Let's just say, hypothetically, there is a Polish team on one side, an American team on the other side. I'm thinking because, for example, the Polish team speaks and understands English. So they know what the Americans are saying. Americans don't know what the Polish are saying between each other. But then maybe it's a disadvantage, because then Americans can deceive you and mislead you and like say bullshit so that you think otherwise. I mean, I was thinking of that. Like, it's also possible So do you think it's an advantage or disadvantage, or like has this happened? Like that because you understood the other side, it was an advantage. You gain advantage because of that.
You've played volleyball, so you know we have all these different tactics in blocking, in spiking, and we show this on our fingers, like behind our backs. Not to speak when we play against the team which speaks the same language that we speak. So against Team USA, when we played, we could speak Polish.
And they wouldn't speak a word.
But also a few players from their team, they already played like 1 year or 2 years or many years in Poland.
So they knew some Polish.
They know the language of volleyball like I know the Italian language of volleyball. So if they hear me speaking some call like what we do in spike or what we do in block, and I tell this in Polish, and they can understand this because they remember what was it. It's risky, you know. Also on the court, it's so loud that when we speak, okay, if I want to say something to you, I had to shout. I would have to shout like this so you can hear me, because there's like 15,000 people around us screaming. So people who are on the other side of the net, they can barely hear what we say. So it's easier to communicate. Like, doesn't matter which language we speak, but if it's more calm on the whole, more silent on some I don't know, friendly games, for example. I think Polish language is an advantage to speak in volleyball.
Over English.
Yeah, over English for sure. And we try to communicate. Also, every time on timeouts, you have camera. And it's like common that statistics, the scoutmen of the opponent team, they have the ear, like the headphones, and they are watching the streaming on the TV and listening, because there's camera.
Really?
Camera
and they're telling the coach what's
that's why many times you have the situation that the coach or somebody is pushing out the cameraman and taking out the microphone from the timeouts, because we have 1 minute. You have to, let's say we play 2-3 hours. We play a game. There is fifth set. There is 13-13 in tiebreak, and you are serving, and you have this one play in block that you have to set up your team. Man, if you say what you are doing before, and they can hear this before, it's like easy.
In this case, like information is really
just
the
for
key.
this one action, and if they know our tactic,
then you're fucked.
Yeah, we're fucked. So it's important, and everybody is trying to get the information every way, like from the TV, to hear something or whatever, to watch. Also, when we are showing, I remember one season, or it was not one season, but in one team in Poland, when we were showing the calls on the fingers, the statistics, the scout guy who was behind the court, they were like, you know, showing what we were showing on the fingers,
just like casually.
So we start to misdirect them to show some other calls, and we said, okay, so now the valid tactics is what we speak, not what we show. And
then you would change it.
And we were showing one thing, speaking about the other thing, getting the point, finishing the spike or whatever, and watching this guy and laughing, you know.
You can get confused, and then like, how many people are on the court? 7, 6, 6.
At one
right?
time, 6 on one team, 6 on
but
the
then
other.
those 6 people, they need to know that you choose this particular tactic over the other one.
You know, this was like one game or 2 games, and we were like laughing when we knew that, okay, on this game we are doing like this, and this was like some kind of play against the opponent team. But yeah, this was fun.
I still want to go back to like the mixed teams, like with mixed nationalities. You know, it's really interesting for me that you guys need to click. I mean, you need to understand their strategy. We follow this strategy. We need to like communicate at all times, you know? And then in that case, I don't know if it's a thing. I did my research. I haven't found anything, but maybe clubs or Polish league, whatever, they should implement some courses or some, I don't know, programs where English is being taught. I also had this discussion last time with my previous guest about educational system in Poland, that it sucks when it comes to teaching languages. So perhaps the initiative should be coming from within, you see what I mean, to implement those programs. Because I think it's really key to communicate, to make strategies, to just make things work.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on that?
I think because volleyball is one thing, but I know that in football, for example, they are putting big pressure on the players who go to play in Premiership, in French league, in Spanish league to speak the language of the country, of the league. So they are forcing in the contracts also, like you have 3 months to make the first test, for example. We will do the first test of your language. You have 3 months. We will provide you the teacher, the school materials, whatever, what you need. We will provide you this, but you have a test in 3 months. If you fail it, we cut you some money, or I don't know, there will be some consequences. This is in football for sure. In volleyball, we don't have it, but we have for sure that some clubs are providing also these services of language schools to the players. I remember when I was in Bełchatów first year, and we had a coach, Miguel Falasca, who was Spanish, but he knew also Italian very good, and he spoke English not so good. So we thought, okay, so maybe we go to the school and try to learn Italian to help him.
Oh,
and also to have some other, like to be better in Italian language. And we went to, I think, few lessons, maybe 2 or 3 lessons. And after it was difficult because our schedule, our calendar was so booked with practices, away games, that it was difficult to make it like every week. And you know exactly, and everybody knows that if you're not learning one language constantly, like doing this few times a week or at least once a week, after like 4 weeks break, we said, okay, fuck it, we cannot make it. Like, it doesn't make sense for us to start over again from the beginning, because we couldn't learn that way. So, but some clubs for sure, they are providing to the foreigners, and I didn't hear the case that some foreigner is coming to the club and asking that he wants to learn our language, and they say, okay, we don't care, like, search, there is possible. They are always trying to help the players, the foreign players, to.
But I also mean in the other way around, right? When there is like a foreign coach and he wants to speak English, then perhaps the English program should be provided to Polish players. I mean, it's just an idea, obviously. Maybe it's too
I don't know
dystopian, but
yeah, I don't know if there was any language school who was the sponsor of the team, like which you can see on the shirt, game shirt, or on the sports hall. But I think they cannot push the Polish players in Poland to speak some other language.
That's also true.
I think it works. I think it works that way, that if there is a coach, and there were some situations like this, when there is a coach who doesn't speak English, and obviously not Polish, they are giving him some guy who is helping him on the practices, on the timeouts, and this is pain in the ass. Like,
that must be really exhausting.
I've never had a coach like this, but I used to like hear.
You know some stories. Imagine having a timeout of 1 minute, and then there's a guy translating it to everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I know that in Japanese national team, there was a translator for Philippe Blanc, who is French, and he speaks Italian, he speaks French, English, but he cannot speak Japanese.
But that's also space for mistakes, miscommunication. Like, if you have to translate, imagine I'm talking to you for 1 minute, and then you have to translate everything that I've said.
Okay, but
or you do simultaneous translation.
Yes, but listen, it's okay when we speak normally. But imagine there is a game, and the coach is pissed on the players.
Pressure.
And he takes time out to shout on them, like to push them to have this like emotional speech to let the fire burn in the team, like mentally. And he's doing this speech for them. They don't understand shit. And after, there is a guy who is trying to do it like on the same kind of emotions, but it's impossible. Obviously, he's just translating what he said in a normal way. And all this speech you can throw out to trash, because you need to have this like emotional speech to the team in their language, so they can understand.
And Andrzej, back to 2014, because now we're celebrating 10-year anniversary. It was exactly 10 years ago. Man, like, I know this question has been asked so many times, but I do want to know if today you feel the same exact excitement when you think of that day? Do you get flashbacks from that day sometimes?
I think yes. I think I feel the same.
Tell us more about it.
I think all my career, especially in media in Poland, started back then after this World Championship. Because in my opinion, like there was like 14 of us in the team, and I was not the best player in this team for sure. I played maybe in 3 games, some episodes, one full game, and in 2 or 3 games I did some
Who was the main, not the setter, but the Kłos?
The middle blocker was Karol Kłos, Piotrek Nowakowski, and Marcin Możdżonek, and me. So there were 4 of us. So I wasn't like the top star of the team in the volleyball way, but I think me and also Karol Kłos, we converted this success mostly in like media popularity way. We started our Instagrams at the beginning of this national team, like before the tournament. We created accounts on Instagram,
and that's when it all started. Because Instagram, 2014.
Then it was like, okay, so Instagram is for girls who are making photos of the meals which they eat, coffee, and well, okay, I've ate breakfast. Click. Okay, hashtag breakfast. And we tried to make it like a diary of the national team, to show some
the backstage
and everything. And it exploded like after every next game that we played in the World Championship. Our accounts were like going few thousands more followers, and I think also this converted into some contracts with sponsorships, paid sponsorships, paid partners, and everything. So we did this our way, and I think this was the tournament which had the most influence on me as a guy in media and in volleyball.
So you would say it was one of the biggest milestones you've achieved in your professional career?
For sure. I know that guys who were in that team, they played after for a few years, for many years, 10 more years in the national team, and they got a lot of medals. Actually, this was like one of the last medal. Oh no, I had a bronze medal in Nations League in 2019, but this was like some short episode. So this was like the most important success.
And the fan base grew exponentially.
Yeah, we were
also international fan base, no? Or
yes.
Was it just the Polish back in that
Brazil
time?
Was crazy about volleyball back then. There still are, but when we were going there to play, we saw like few thousand people on our accounts from Brazil.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. And volleyball is popular, not in the way like tennis or football or basketball, but in the countries that love volleyball, like Brazil, like
Poland,
Argentina, like Poland, of course, Turkey, Italy. You can see the demography of the account on the statistics in Instagram, and we can see that most of the people are from these countries.
Here's a quote. Poland is the best example of how you take the sport of men's volleyball and make an entire professional community about it. It's a quote by a colleague of yours, Taylor Averill, and he was talking about the community, the people. And it always amazed me, how we as Polish people have this drive to support our teams. And I think within the world of volleyball, it's not the exception. Where does it come from? How in your opinion?
Our history, of course.
Yeah.
We have this desire, this hunger to show our nationality, to show that we can like go together and achieve something. And sport is the best way nowadays, because back then there were wars and we were like, we don't have to speak about our history, how it looked, that we were not on the world maps for many, many years. And we are hungry of showing that we are proud country and that we are the best in something.
So it's in us, within us.
It's in us, yeah. And
in our blood.
And volleyball, through volleyball, we can achieve this. We can feel these victories. It's not in every sport we have this, and volleyball gives us this feeling, and it's important for people, I think, especially in Poland with all our history to feel like this.
And if you were to choose one country which is like similar to us when it comes to like this mantle of fans, because now we see that Italy is gaining popularity in volleyball right nowadays, as in Japan also. But like I'm talking like mental, like the people.
But mental in the Sikh way about sport?
No. Like
just the mental way.
Yeah, in the Polish mental.
I think Brazilians are similar.
See, but that's what I also think, that we have this connection with like Latin American countries and like Spanish
also
speaking.
Serbians. But it's the same with the players. Like I played with many different nationalities through all my seasons of my career, and with Serbians, with Latin guys, with Argentinians, like it's like this, like to find some common way of communication, and we are friends like in the moment, like we are making friends in the moment, and we know that we can do everything together. With some countries, it's more difficult, Some, I don't know, Germans are really like closed, and they don't like to open so much at the beginning. You need to know them for a long time.
But it's interesting in general that there's such a big like distance geographically, and like Germany is our neighbor, and still it doesn't click at times. I also get it.
I think it's with the mentality of the, like, for example, with the some love to, I don't know, to celebrate time together with like in eating meals together with all this family, holidays, Christmas, how we do this, like how this is important to sit together, to have fun together, to party together, to do everything together with your friends. And we are really open country in this, and we are open for the foreigners also. And that's why, I don't know, Brazilians are the same. Americans are similar. Like when they come to play, they are really open guys. They are really nice to be with them in the team. Serbians, I think this is the three. These are the three nations that I like to play the most, like together in one team.
You mentioned traditions a bit, but I want to know now, what are some traditions that makes us stand out from others? Like, imagine there is a fan, Polish fan. I'm talking fans. I'm not talking players. There's a Polish fan, group of fans on a stadium. What makes them stand out? Do they scream the loudest? Do they? There must be something that's ours, I think, or maybe not. But it's a question I have for you.
I think it's the combination of fans and like the event, people working around the event, like for example DJ and like a speaker on the sport hall who is leading the crowd through the game, how they lead, how the DJ is leading with the music and everything. I think we are the only or one of few countries right now, but it started from ourselves that we sing the anthem a cappella, like without music.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what stands us.
It's really impressive for every national team that is coming here to Poland to play. Fans are always dressed in the colors of our country, white and red, fully. They have some funny costumes. They always they show the love to players like on every step they do on the sport hall, and you can feel it and they are cheering really loudly. And we back in the days for sure, in 2014, we could feel really as a rock stars. Like I think this is the level of the popularity that when, I don't know, Rolling Stones are coming or Metallica or Justin Timberlake, they are feeling like this everywhere in the world, like we felt during these 3 weeks.
Back in 2014.
In 2014, in the tournament of World Championships in Poland.
I wanted to ask you, what was the popularity like of a volleyball player before social media, but that doesn't really apply to you, does it? Like ever since you sort of started being a volleyball player recognizable abroad, you've been active on social media, but still, I think in 2014, let's imagine a hypothetical situation. There is a game you see the volleyball players coming onto the court, you sort of wait for another game to see them again. You see what I mean? Now you're only click away from seeing the live.
But it's
with everything.
With everything, man.
With
If I could follow Michael Jordan when he was in his prime in Chicago Bulls, and I can see his every move, every practice on Instagram, this could be nuts, like, to see it. And I think that's also why they had more comfort to be themselves in the teams all the time, like to lose everything and to do whatever they want. They could act more like rock stars, let's say, around the games. Because right now we have our social media team from the club, like almost everywhere we go, on each practice. People can follow us on our private accounts, but also on the club accounts to see how we practice, how we recover, how we are doing before the games, in the locker room, after the games, interviews, blah, blah, blah. After we go home, we have our social media. Okay, maybe not everyone is posting so much as me or some other guys, but we are also like leading our life in social media and showing people what we are doing. 20 years ago, it was like you could see your favorite player, I know, tennis player or whoever in each sport, just during the game. Just when you have to go on this game to watch him live to get, I don't know, a minute with him or a second with him. Now it's much easier for everyone to follow their idols in sport.
There were also the Bravo magazines. I don't know if you know the magazines for teenagers. I think they were based for teenagers.
Bravo Sport. This was my magazine. Not just Bravo, but I was buying Bravo Sport.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, in that case, look, I called my friend yesterday.
Why are you surprised? I'm old, man. I had the posters on my wall. Now people.
I also had the posters, but
now kids probably they are okay. I like this athlete, Andrzej Wrona. I will have the wallpaper on my iPhone with him, and that's all. Or I will follow him on Instagram. Back in the days, I was like waiting till, I don't know, David Beckham would be on the big poster in Bravo Sport to put him on my wall.
And my friend, I was talking to her on the phone yesterday, and she was like, I literally have the picture of the whole team from 2014 from the Bravo magazine.
There are some.
So, and that was a bit, I would say, like equivalent of the social media nowadays, because in 2014, I mean, come on, now there wasn't like reels, you couldn't make videos. It was just like the posts, you know? And then she showed me the picture, and there was like comment section, like not comments per se, but like people would, like it was already like printed, obviously, but like it was like comments of people.
Instagram on paper.
Literally, I was watching it. I was like, "Fuck!" It's so interesting and so like you can compare it really to nowadays and how the social media.
Yeah, but it's funny
works.
because still like some older fans, when we go around Poland or Europe, some older fans sometimes they are bringing me like these old souvenirs, like old posters to sign because they couldn't. I don't know, or they found it somewhere in their grandmother's room or whatever. Also about grandmothers, I have more and more often these situations that some girl is coming, like my age or younger, and she's coming to me and she's saying, "Oh, can you sign this for my auntie or for my mama or for my grand?" They are the biggest fans of yours. And I'm like, yeah, I'm old. Like,
okay, this is like the 5th time you're saying you're old, so I have to ask this question. You brought it on yourself.
I'm 36, by the way, because this is old for an athlete.
Volleyball players tend to retire earlier than like, I mean, it's obviously athletes tend to retire earlier than
36?
Well, I don't know, 40, 36, whatever.
It depends, I think.
It depends, but they tend to retire earlier. I mean, when you compare it to a regular person who works 9-to-5 job. And then there is a natural progression of your career. You can be coach, you can do like commentary section, like be journalist. It's sort of something you're interested in, I feel like. I want to know if this is natural progression for you of your career, or do you imagine yourself doing something different in 10, 15 years to come?
First of all, you said like the age of retirement. I think it was different when I started in the league, like 18 years ago, when it was my first season in the professional league, when I had some guys who were 34 years old. For me, they were like fucking dinosaurs. Like how this guy can even move normally on the court. He's so old, like he can barely jump. Like, you know, if he goes out of the court, he can go lay down straight to the grave, and how it's possible he still can handle the practices. So this was when I was 18 and they were 34. Now I'm 36. I think I'm playing pretty good season, and I can handle all the pressure, physical pressure and everything. So I think the medicine, the recovery system, the weightlifting system is different right now, and we can play longer. But going to answer to your question, I think for sure I will not be a coach. Because being a coach costs you more time than being a player, because I just go for the practice. I finish practice. I have to recover. I have to eat.
And the
good.
job is done.
The
You
job
don't
is
have to
done.
worry about.
And the coach has to analyze the practice. He has to prepare another practice. He has to analyze the tactics of the opponent team, which we play in 3 days.
Seems like a lot of work.
Prepare, yeah, like it's 24-hour work for me, and it's too much. And I love volleyball, but I don't want to. I don't want to do this like so much like the coaches are doing. So yeah, I like to be a, let's say, journalist. I'm not after studies of journalism, but
neither am I. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, right now for sure not. I like it very much. I like to do interviews, podcasts, and whatever. And I already work in TV, which is broadcasting volleyball in Poland. I do this for, I think this fourth year already. When it's national team, period during holidays, then I work between club seasons. I work for the TV. So I like to do it. Also, I'm one of the co-owners of the IT company, which provides some services for volleyball around the world. So we are also like organizing
So the volleyball will
events.
stay at heart eventually.
So volleyball is around me, but in a different way. That being just a member of the staff of the team. And I love volleyball. It gave me a lot, and I want to give something back, but not as a coach.
Partnerem podcastu jest Tutlo, szkoła angielskiego online, która tak jak ja pomaga przełamywać bariery w mówieniu.
Andrzej, mamy również pytanie od patrona, które teraz chcę przeczytać. Mówię to po polsku,
Jezu,
ponieważ mówię to po polsku, ponieważ wy również możecie je zadać, czytając opis mojego odcinka, tam znajdziecie wszystkie informacje. And the question is as follows. Michał is the patron. He would like to know whether there is a slang word in a volleyball environment that the players use. And I mean, obviously there is. He wants to hear some examples. I know one. I know about sypa. It's when the setter sets the ball, no?
Sypacz is the setter, and
he sets the ball. But
I'm not sure if sypa right now is not cringe word to say.
Fuck.
Like maybe it was.
How would you say
when
it?
I was young, we were saying.
But that's me watching the game in 2014.
Sypnij mi piłkę, like set me the ball.
What is the other slang word that you use nowadays?
We have all the calls like of the plays in spiking, in blocking, like. This is shoot, so like the middle blocker is spiking the ball, like going to spike, like let's say around 2-3 meters from the setter. Like this is the longest play in the middle of the net. So this is the call is 7.
7.
So we call it or 7 or shoot, and Polish name is przesunięta, krótka, or SUV.
7 is przesunięta.
7. We can also say it's 7, but I think this is the play which has the most names in volleyball. Because you can call it 7, you can call it shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Odd is also like Polish name because you go like odd, like from the setter. Yeah. So you go far away from the setter. So it's like from. This is chi. So you go like from
this
the
is what?
Chi. Like C.
Okay. Oh, so it's letters.
Chi is
letters and
so chi
numbers.
is Italian. Chi is Italian.
Okay.
So because like the most common play is this, is head, is 1. So you go like when it's a setter, the middle blocker is going like really close to as close to the setter as possible, and he's spiking. But when it's chi, it's like you go from 1 outside a little bit to jump from the blocking guy next in front of you outside to have the direction to spike. So jump from the setter. So it's chi from Italian, obviously. Like C, you can call it C. In Polish is haczyk.
It's letters, numbers.
Yeah. What we have? We have gwoźdź, which is the spike really hard into the court, like really strong with.
And it can
loudly,
be done by attacker or by the middle. It doesn't matter, no? Or
like it doesn't matter who, but it's a spike. But when you block, somebody is chapa. Like you sell him the head. So sprzedajesz mu czapę. So these are few like common that we use in our language.
Thank you for that insight. I didn't know that. It's interesting. Andrzej, we're gonna be slowly wrapping up because we also have a time pressure. I know that.
Yeah, we go to practice.
Yes, she's going straight to practice, guys.
I came from my practice, so I'm just between practices.
I have a last question, a bit of philosophical. You can do whatever you want.
I don't know if we have time for
No.
questions.
It's gonna be short. Well, you make it your own. You decide.
Okay.
If you were to give one piece of advice for listeners, for viewers, perhaps for young athletes, what would it be?
No, because we have the sponsor like this, I would say learn languages if you want to play in the professional level of sports, because this will help you to get your knowledge about the sport you love, and it's easier. It will like make your perspective wider because you can listen to coaches from different countries, to players from different countries, to know. Because in many places in the world, the perspective is different for the sport that you love. And if you want to be a good athlete, you need to listen to everyone to find your road, to find your way. Because there is not one way in sports. Everybody can find their way. Like some guys can go to the pro level shorter time, some needs more time. But it doesn't matter. Like you have to learn. You have to learn your lessons and listen to smart people around the world. And for this, you need languages. So you need to speak fucking languages.
Be open. Speak fucking languages and be open. Andrzej, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Also. Thank you.
Really nice having you.